welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about something similar to the last video, which is some of my favorite stays in all of Ireland. The last video I made, if you haven't seen it, it's right here. Check that one out. Come back, watch this one. This one is all to do with manor house hotels and historic properties around Ireland. Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland. I'm going to list for you guys my top 10 favorite stays for historic houses, manor houses, and all of Ireland. I think you'll see a few running themes through a lot of these, which is history, location, just like the last video. Location plays a big part in all of this, and things to do while at these properties. So let's jump into this. I'm doing a top 10, not a top 5. I wanted to give you a few extras. I even have some bonus extras afterwards. So let's jump right into it. If you don't know much about Manor House Country Hotel, that's okay. I actually didn't either until maybe a year and a half ago when I was doing a little research on these types of places for my job. It's a family-owned hotel. It's from around the 17th century, and it's in a cool spot in Northern Ireland, actually, right north of the town of Enniskillen. If you don't know Enniskillen, that's okay. But Enniskillen is actually a cool little town in Northern Ireland, and fun fact, one of my favorite pubs in the whole island is actually in Enniskillen. And if you're a Game of Thrones fan, you'll definitely want to visit there, and I won't spoil it. You can research it yourself or just go check it out and you'll see why. But yeah, it's a 4-star hotel. There's a lot to do on site, as most of these places will have. You have your marina on site, you've got golf there, and it's really just a place that, when I think of these types of hotels and places to stay, it is about the things to do and the things that are around it, but it's also what you don't have to do. It's a 4-star hotel, like I said, but it's quite luxurious. So it's a place where you can go, stay a few days, enjoy the countryside, relax, and really just kind of take a breath. I feel like oftentimes, and I'm guilty of this with my itineraries that I create for myself, for my own personal travel, it's always go, go, go. And then I get home and I'm like, I need a break, I need a vacation. So this is definitely one of those places where you can go and do that. So my number 9 property is Glenlo Abbey, which is near Galway. Glenlo Abbey I've known about for a long time. It's one of those famous properties that I feel like a lot of people might know about. Generally, I find that people know about Glenlo Abbey not because of the hotel itself, but because of what's on site at the hotel. So let's talk about that a little bit. The house itself dates back to around 1740. Like I said, it's close to Galway. There's where it gets its name from, the Abbey. There's an Abbey just next door to the hotel. So if you look at the hotel from the front, you see the hotel or the manor house, and then there's the Abbey right next door. So the Abbey was built by the family who built the house, I think around 1790 or something like that. And it was never finished. So it's just there. It's not like a working Abbey or anything like that, but it's a cool piece of the history, I suppose. Like the first property, there's tons to do there. There's a golf course right on site. You've got walks you can do. You've got falconry. You've got cycling and fishing. There's a movie theater on site. It's a cute little theater. I love it. But the thing that it's most widely known for is one of my favorite dining experiences in all of Ireland. The Pullman carriage, and if you don't know what the Pullman carriage is, I'll throw a picture up, or video up of what it is. The Pullman carriage that's on site dates back to the early 1900s, so when it was built, and that carriage was a part of the original Orient Express. So doing my research a little bit, this train car ran some routes between Monaco and Istanbul and St. Petersburg, Russia. So a lot of history just right there, right off the bat to begin with. At the end of its career, it was in England, and it was taking people like Sir Laurence Olivier from Brighton to London, and it even played a role in the 70s film Murder on the Orient Express. So a lot of history, and It isn't like like Pullman carriages as a whole. It was these carriages. This train itself was a part of those pieces of history. So it's really, really unique around the whole island. And the fact that it sits on property just behind the hotel here, right next to the golf course, is really special. I will say that I'm a bit of a history nerd, and the one notable thing about this Pullman carriage for me is that this was actually one of the trains that brought Sir Winston Churchill after he had passed. So from his funeral back to where his sort of ancestral home was, or close to it. And I love World War II. I'm so enthralled by the history and the stories around World War II, and that just put it over the top for me. So if you have a chance, even if you don't stay at Glenlo Abbey, so it is a bit pricey, it's a 5-star place, you can book a table there. Now I will warn you, you can imagine there's a few train cars and it's all converted into a really high-end fine dining experience, but there's only so much seating, and generally they would give preference to the people who are staying there. But if you book early enough, you can probably secure a spot even if you're not staying there. So if you're staying in Galway or somewhere and you want to go have a really unique sort of fine dining experience, highly recommended. Coming in at number 8 is a place that is near, it's kind of near, like in the Connemara region-ish. It's in County Mayo. It's right outside the town of Ballina, and that is Mount Falcon. So Mount Falcon is, I feel like a lot of these, I'm going to be a broken record in this video. I'm really sorry. If you don't want to hear me talk and you just want to get to the content, check the description down below. I will have a link to a custom map, just like the last video, for all the castles of Ireland. And that map will show you all the locations. You can filter it by 5-star hotels, 4-star hotels, private rentals. You can kind of get an idea of where all these different places are in Ireland, and it will help you plan your vacation. So if you want to just skip to the end or skip to those, you'll see it down there in the description. But on your way down to the description, if you don't mind, give this video a like, and if you're not subscribed, please do, and share the video. It helps our little thriving channel grow even more, which would be great. So Mount Falcon was built in the 1870s. Broken record here. Lots of history, lots of famous people staying there. So you got people like, a lot of golf legends, like Mark O'Meara, Nick Faldo, some guy named Tiger Woods, no big deal. It's a small estate. There's like 30-ish bedrooms on the on the estate itself. Again, there's lots to do. You have golf, of course, fishing, falconry. Those are going to be sort of the constant themes throughout a lot of these different places. I will say, like on the falconry piece, it is one of my favorite things to do in Ireland. There's something about it when I'm there, when you're, in the presence of a castle or a manor house, and you're getting ready to, have these big European owls or these falcons or whatever, sit on your arm, and some of them even fly off and come back to you or whatever. There's something about that scenery that just kind of, I don't know, just makes you feel like you're not living in 2020. It makes you feel like you're, back in the day, and there's something cool about it. There's also lodges on the grounds and things like that too. It kind of can give you a bit more of a private experience if you don't want a shared sort of manor house. Obviously the rooms in the manor house are completely separate from each other, but if you want something even more private, you have that as well. And then of course, you can use the manor house for dinner and things like that. And I'm trying to think, on my entire list that I have, there's not a place that doesn't have award-winning dining or activities and things to do on them. But I will say, this is, Mount Falcon is definitely known for its food and dining experience. So don't miss it. That's where I would go for dinner if I was staying there, for sure. So coming in at number 7 is one you may not think about, but I guess when you do start thinking about it, you go, oh, yeah, that kind of fits. And that's actually right in Dublin. The Shelbourne is a really cool place. I love it. If I could afford to stay there every time I go to Dublin, I would do it. But you know, it's in an excellent location. It literally overlooks Stephen's Green in Dublin. You're right smack in the middle. You're in walking distance to pretty much all the things. It's actually right next door, or almost right next door, to one of my favorite museums in Dublin. Now look, I'm not like a big museum guy. I do like to go and look at things, but you know, I'm not like, oh wow, look at, you know, this, and you know, here's the history behind it and all that. I just like to go and have fun, and you know, I'll see the famous places and stuff. But you know, whether you're a museum buff or you're not, this is one that you'll like. It's called the Little Museum of Dublin. I've become good friends with the people there, and they're fantastic. Their guides definitely make it. You'll have poetry recited to you. You'll learn about history. You'll learn about the people of Dublin who have kind of created this museum in a way, because it's a lot of things that people from Dublin owned and they sort of donated to the museum. You'll be sang to, serenaded, if you will. You'll have lots of jokes told. It's just kind of a Dublin or Ireland experience, if you will. It's just all the things that you think of. It's music, it's poetry. It's just, you know, it's good fun. Good crack, if you will. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about some of the other things at the Shelbourne that are really unique compared to some of these other places. And that is that, number one, again, no big deal, the Irish Constitution was drafted there. I mean, yeah, that's kind of a big deal. And also, they have what's called a genealogy butler on site. So, if you think that you're Irish, or you know that you're Irish, there's a lot of people who think they're Irish, and I don't know, maybe they are. You can actually get time with this person to have a consultation done. I mean, it can last anywhere from an hour to a full day, where they're really diving deep into your family history and giving you this this report at the end that shows you all the different things about your genealogy. And I thought that was really, really cool. It's like a really nice high-end touch. And I know their genealogy butler is probably world-renowned amongst genealogists, especially for Irish history. So I would check that out as well. The Bushmills Inn, you're thinking, wait, is that like Bushmills, like the whiskey? It is. The only thing I can think of when I think of Bushmills, the Bushmills Inn, is like a quaint, cozy, like warm fire, good scotch or whiskey in my hand on like a evening as the sun's setting and it's like cool. I mean, it just, like the whole thing just makes me want to stop all what I'm doing and go and stay. It is one of my favorite spots in all of Ireland in terms of hotel stays, and it is vastly popular with literally everyone that stays there. One of the highest rated places, one of the hardest to get into sometimes. It's quaint, it's small, and it's booked quick. So if it's something that ticks the boxes for you, I would book early, and it's in a great spot location-wise, so I would book more than a night there. I'd probably book a couple of days at least if you can do it. But you know, a little more about the history, I would say, is that if you don't know, Bushmills was given the first license to distill whiskey way back in the 1600s, like 1610 or 1605 or something. It's somewhere in the middle there. And that was granted to the old Bushmills. Yeah, history abound there. And again, it is one of my favorite spots. And you'll find that a lot of people who work and travel for a living, it's also one of their favorite spots too. So can't go wrong. Delphi Lodge it's a large property. It's about 1,000 acres. It's pristine. It's probably some of the most pristine countryside that I've ever seen. It's just absolutely gorgeous and chock full of like little local things to do. I think I mentioned that in my last video, where all of the outdoorsy things that you want to do. I mean, fishing, cycling, shooting, hiking, horseback riding, it's all there. It's one of those places where you're not necessarily going to go and have some of the, amenities of a city nearby or something like that. It isn't like that. There's, a few villages here and there that you could drive out to, but it's really more about the outdoors and the scenery that's going to kind of draw you in. One funny note is that, at least for me and my cell service that I have, there's a corner that you turn before you get to Delphi Lodge if you're coming from a specific direction. But my cell service just literally quits. It's almost like someone's telling you, hey, you're not really going to need this. Just put it away. But it is funny. So I have zero cell service out there. It's kind of great. Down in the south part of Ireland, where you have like Cahernane and places like that, those are generally good spots because you have the town there with, loads of stuff to do, lots of places to eat, pubs and things like that, music, a lot of fun to be had there. And it's a great kicking off spot, just like Tralee and some other places around there to get to Dingle, to get to do the Ring of Kerry. But this spot for me it's kind of like the best of both worlds for me. You kind of feel away from things, and you're in a historic old property, and you're also close to Killarney if you want to get out and walk. It's about 15 or 20 minutes walk. So my number 4 property for me is Cahernane House. So Cahernane, I've stayed there several times recently and in the past, and it's just managed well. The service is just over the top. It's so fantastic there. The people, they really make you feel like you're the only guest staying there, and they would bend over backwards to do anything for you. But yeah, it ticks that box of you're a 3 or 5 minute drive to town to Killarney, or you're a 20-minute walk, but then you're also, boom, you're right in nature, and you're in this historic manor house hotel that's just got loads of history. It was built by the Herbert family back in the late 1800s. And if you know anything about the Herbert family, you would also know that they would be connected to Muckross House. And so if you haven't heard of Cahernane House, but you're familiar with the Ring of Kerry and Killarney and the things that are near Killarney, like Killarney National Park and Muckross House, then those two are connected. They're kind of like sister properties, if you will. But yeah, there's so much history there, and I would highly recommend, just for like the coolness factor, the connection there, that if you're staying at Cahernane House, and even if you're not, I would go to Muckross House. It's a museum now, and you have to take it guided just because of all of like the original expensive things in there. But it's a fantastic tour. And you can explore the gardens and things on your own when you get done touring the house. So highly, highly recommended. Hayfield Manor was a place that I hadn't been to up until maybe a couple of years ago. It's a 5-star manor house. It dates back to the 1800s, and it just feels luxe when you get on the property. Absolutely known for their service. I love Hayfield. Well, it's hard not to like it because it is a 5-star, but I love it because you have like the luxury of this sort of old world manor house. You have this world-renowned service that's matched with it. And then also you have the city of Cork, really close to the downtown area of Cork. Just the fact that you have Cork City right there near the hotel is a huge plus. And then of course, in and around Cork, you have things like Blarney Castle. You've got the small island of Cove, which is steeped in Irish immigration. You can actually, it's one of the prettier train rides in my opinion. If you take the train from Kent Station in Cork over to Cove, it's about a 30-minute trip. It's like €6 one way. But yeah, you've got, like I said, Cove, Blarney Castle, and then you have just to the south a little bit, you have the foodie town of Kinsale. The number 2 property for me is, again, I warned you, I'm a history nerd, especially World War II stuff, and this place is directly related to World War II. And that place for me is Beech Hill House. Beech Hill House is right near the city of Derry, or Londonderry, if you like. And it's named for the beech trees that are on site that kind of surround the house. So during World War II, this actually sort of became a quasi-Navy base, and there were over 700 Marines stationed there at one time during World War II. So when you walk into the house itself, there's even like off to the side, there's a little museum there for the U.S. Marines. They've got pictures up there. They've got original uniforms. They've got all this memorabilia. It's just in one room. It's a little mini museum. It doesn't take over the whole house or anything. It's not big and overstated, but I just think it's really cool. They still have the old like huts or lodges on the back side of the property where the Marines stayed, and I don't know. I feel like that's really, really cool. The other thing too, from a history standpoint, is that even if you go back further than even World War II, like way back, we're talking like 17th century back, one thing that Derry, or Londonderry, is famous for, and I think that people know it for, is the walls, right? That's like the famous thing about Derry. And the house, the original house, was built around the same time as those walls. And they actually believe, the owners now believe, that one of the people who was heavily involved in building those walls actually owned that house originally. So it really ties in quite nice with the surrounding area of where Beech Hill is located. And the other thing I'll say too about the location piece and why I have it so high on the list beyond World War II history and all the other history, and the fact that it's a gorgeous 4-star manor house stay, is that you're also close to Derry. You're close to Donegal. You're close to Inishowen, which is the big peninsula up in the north. And you're also close to one of probably my favorite national park in all of Ireland, which is Glenveigh. So yeah, that's why I have it at number 2. Here we are at number 1. Shocker, it's number 1 mainly because of the location. I shouldn't say mainly because of the location. It's just a place that's dear to me. It's one of those places where I could go and just spend a week and not be ready to come home. I think that's rare. I think sometimes, we love to go on vacation and we go and stay at a place, or we travel around and we're like, this has been really great. Super vacation. I'm ready to go home. This is one of those places where I've yet to get tired of it. When I leave, I'm like, I wish I could just stay another day, Parknasilla is kind of this rare thing in that it's never not been a part of hospitality. So it's always kind of been a hotel, if you will. So they welcomed their first guest back around 1900, like 1895 or something like that. It is a resort now. There is a spa on site. The setting, in my mind, it can't be beat. So a lot of the places, even like the castles and things that I talked about in a previous video, they're good starting off points to do things like the Ring. The one thing that makes this property so unique is that it's on the Ring of Kerry. You're right there. You're right outside of Sneem, so you can hop in your car and take off and do the Ring. And if it's in the morning or something, you're beating all the traffic that's coming and doing the Ring as well. So I just feel like it's a fantastic place. It's a setting that's really unique in terms of what it can provide for outdoor activities. So you've got loads of different walking trails, hiking trails that are on the property itself. And they kind of give you a heads up about all that when you check in. So it's, like here's a longer hike, a shorter hike. If you don't want to do it yourself, you can take a guided hike. If you want to go boating, you can do that. They have like power boat trips. And then they also have like kayaking trips. The one unique thing about the kayaks is that if you're not a big paddler, you don't have to. They have like little motors on the back of them. You're not going to go real fast, but it gives you a break from paddling. And it's just a cool thing to get out into these protected coves and just kind of, take off for a couple hours and go be in nature in your kayak. I mean, it's really, really cool. One of my favorite falconry experiences in Ireland is also at Parknasilla. The gentleman that comes there brings a ton of different birds of prey, and it's just loaded with information, super passionate about it. Obviously let you hold them, and you can pet them, and it's a really neat experience that they provide there at the resort. You know, one of my favorite things to do, if you can make it happen, it's kind of one of those rare things that not everyone gets to participate in because it can be difficult, is visiting Skellig Michael. You know, being that you're on the Ring of Kerry, if you're staying at Parknasilla, I recommend staying there for a few days at least, and it can kind of give you a better opportunity to actually make it to Skellig Michael if that's something that's on your list to do. If it's on your list to do, you probably know that Skellig Michael can be difficult because of seasonality, because of the weather. So you could show up and the weather's rough and you don't get to go, and then maybe you have to drive back to Dublin or Shannon or something because you're leaving the next day and you missed it. So it's great that, you know, this property is on the Ring. You can take advantage of that, and you can make it down to Skellig or Portmagee to get to Skellig relatively easy. So that's one of the other cool things. If you don't know about Skellig Michael, or even if you do and you want to see a little bit more about it, I'll put a card up here somewhere. You can check out one of my trips to Skellig Michael. I documented most of it, and it was my favorite Ireland experience thus far, and I've done a lot in Ireland. I did want to throw in a couple of honorable mentions in this video, mainly because I feel like if I don't, somebody's gonna roast me and be like, where is Adare Manor? Adare Manor is an honorable mention for me. It is as bougie as it gets. That's all I will say. It is a place that is essentially a 5-star plus, or, you know, even close to like a 6-star hotel. It is absolutely Ireland's premier hotel. It's one of Europe's premier hotel, and it is probably one of the world's most premier hotels. They're hosting the Ryder Cup in 2026. It is just as fancy as it gets, and I personally have never stayed there. I would love to stay there. It's just the cost is a bit of a barrier, but it is, frankly, it's everything that you would expect, and probably more. But yeah, so Adare Manor is absolutely an honorable mention for me, and of course, not just because of the property, but location. So the town of Adare is really close to a lot of big things that people, if they're going to Ireland for the first time, would love to see. So the Cliffs of Moher, you're within 90 minutes. Blarney Castle, you're within 90 minutes. The Dingle Peninsula, the Ring of Kerry, all within 90 minutes. So it can be a nice base for you to stay at and take day trips out from to go to those big sort of bucket list items for your Ireland vacation. So in hearing that, and you're like, wow, Adare sounds like a great place to stay, but I can't afford Adare Manor. Got the place. So right across the street from Adare Manor is formerly the Dunraven Arms, is now the Dunraven, and it is actually one of the places I love to stay, and the entire hotel was just completely refurbished. If you're watching this video, it's January 2020, so if you're looking at this 6 years from now, it wouldn't have been completely refurbished, but as of January 2020, it has been completely refurbished, so all the rooms have been done. I mean, even before that, the rooms were great, but fantastic owners, great place to stay, super good food, and again, you are right across the street from Adare Manor, and you have all the things that Adare has to offer, which I believe just a year or two ago, Adare was voted like Ireland's prettiest village. I would agree with that for sure. Lots of thatched cottages and things around there. But again, you're close to so many big ticket Ireland attractions that it's tough to beat. So there you have it. That is my top 10 with a couple of honorable mentions. If you feel like I got this wrong, tell me in the comments section. I would love to hear what your top 10 is, or what your top one is, or if you have questions about where you should stay, or you know, what you should do on your itinerary. I would love to help you figure that out. Shoot me a private message on Facebook or leave it in the comments section. I have a link for our Discord down in the description as well. It's an easier way for us to kind of communicate back and forth and help you plan your vacation or answer some travel or Ireland questions that you might have. So if you thought this video was useful, or if you just enjoyed it, please consider liking it and sharing and subscribing. And I will see you guys in the next one.